Steve?
The great thing about this was it was free.
Come on in, Abby.
Hi, Abby. Come on in, sit down.
Have a seat.
Ask him to come in and sit down. He can join us.
Well, I guess I'll get underway here. My name's Colquhoun. I'm a TPUG member. And I've noticed over the last few years there's been more and more interest about preserving your manuals and magazines and things like that digitally. So I've had a go at it, at my collection myself, a couple of different ways, but you know, I found some various problems with them. So anyway, why do you need a book scanner anyway? You might have a large archive of manuals and magazines that you'd like to have available in digital format. It makes it easier to just have everything at your fingertips if you can get to them from your computer. You'd probably like to preserve all this stuff without destroying it though in the process, which is a problem if you're trying to use a document sheet feed scanner. And you probably want to do all this without investing an extraordinary amount of time. So, some drawbacks of the traditional way people have been doing them. Flatbed scanners, if you've ever used them, they're horribly slow. So if you imagine trying to scan in, say, a manual that's 350 pages, you'd be there a week. The other problem is that unless you cut your books apart, you often wind up with the text on the inner binding side being distorted and rounded when you look at it on the screen after it's been scanned. Sheet feed scanners, you almost certainly have to destroy the book to use those because you need to cut the binding off so you can feed the sheets in one at a time. They're crazy fast, but they're also ridiculously expensive. So I came across this site on the internet that said, well, why don't we build our own and do it as cheaply as possible. So as you can see here, this is the entire rig, short of a light. What you need is a cardboard box, which is what we use to hold the book. It's just a box that's been cut diagonally in half and opened out to make a V. Desk lamp, $4 at Value Village. A roll of duct tape there to tape it all together. A tripod. I didn't have a tripod. Some of you that, you know, if you have a camera, you might already have one even, but I had to get one. Found a cheap one on eBay for 17 bucks. Digital camera. I think most people probably already have a digital camera of some sort that's usable. And oddly, one of the more expensive pieces to this is a piece of plastic that I got at Home Depot. This silly piece of plastic was $11. But you know, if you own a home, you may even have a pane of glass or something lying around that you can make use of from an old window or something. And that's basically all you need, hardware-wise. Software you need. With this method, you wind up with a set of images, usually of all the right side pages of your book, and then you flip the book over, and then you photograph all the left side pages of the book. So you need, before you process them, you need to get them in the right order. So I just wrote a Perl script that you can grab at that URL there if you're interested, that will fix the order of all the images once you transfer them to the computer. It's written in Perl, so if you're on Windows, like I think probably most people are, you need Strawberry Perl. It's a free distribution of Perl for Windows. if there's also Active State Pro for Windows that may or may not be encumbered by commercial rules and stuff like that. So, and then the most important piece is ScanTailor. ScanTailor is a free piece of software that will do, well, it'll let you recreate your book from a series of images. And I'll show you how to use that. And I got all this information, if you're interested, from DIYBookscanner.org. And this is the super ultra cheap method of building this. There's guys on there that have built these book scanners that are incredibly complicated, like a whole frame with a movable thing that holds your book, and using 2 cameras so that you can, you can capture the book like both pages at the same time. And but I didn't want to toss that much money into it, so anyways, I'll show you how this all works. Can somebody hit the source button on the projector? There we go. Now I'm cheating a little bit to do this here with this desk lamp. What I use at home is actually a slightly higher powered light, a halogen with a halogen bulb in it. It gets a slightly better and more even light on your book. Oops. Can somebody source me again, please? Okay. Okay, so the trick to all this that I found to get the best results is that you have to spend some time getting this as square as you possibly can. Okay, so unfortunately the shadow of the light is in the screen, but you get the idea. So literally you just photograph it, turn the page, photograph it, turn the page, now you can see that some of these other guys that have built the scanners that they use 2 cameras cut down a significant amount of time, because you'll only have to turn the pages once. This way you have to turn the pages twice, because you have to photograph the other side once you get to the end.
You're using the autofocus on the camera?
Yeah, my camera has no choice. If you have a better camera that will hold your focus, then you can skip the autofocus every time. Anyway, so you get the idea. Once you get through to the very last page in your book, then you flip your book over. How did I do this? So I just did that side, right? So then you start from here. Now all these will be upside down, but we'll use ScanTailor to fix them after. Anyway, I'm not going to do the whole book because we'll be here all night. Anyways, let's see. Where's the other cable? So I'm going to skip the step about ordering the images just for the sake of speed. I think most people can figure out how that'll work. It also makes it slightly confusing because I didn't photograph the whole book, so I'm not sure what that script will do. It may get them out of order because there's not the right number of images, but anyways. So here's Scan Tailor. So you choose the folder where you stuck your images. One thing you'll want to do is fix the DPIs on all these images. And the way we do that is here's the image, an example of one of the images. So you literally take a ruler and measure the number of lines that you have in an inch. So in this situation we have, so we've got about 8 lines in an inch. With GIMP for a second so we can measure it. So what we're trying to do here, oops, we are not trying to do that. So, according to my ruler, that's about an inch. And we look down here and see, look for the size, so it's about 340 pixels. So, okay, so here's our images. First thing we need to do is fix the orientation of them. And because I only have a few, I'm going to do them one by one. When you're dealing with a large number of images, you can apply the same rotation to a whole bunch of them at the same time. Okay, so more or less, here we have our book. So next we want to have it detect where the pages are. And it's done a decent job of detecting where the page is here, but we want to move that line in so that it's at the edge of the book. And it's not detecting the edge of the page here properly just because I have shiny tape and the lights in the image and stuff like that. There's a bunch of problems that if you're doing this at home, you'd adjust all your settings and stuff so that that wasn't actually happening. And Scan Tailor does a better job of figuring it out when it's not dealing with this other stuff. And again, when you're doing this with a large scale of images, you usually take your time a bit more when you're actually doing the capture, so that some of these problems you're seeing me fix here aren't happening on every single image. You're being more careful so that every image is the same, and then it'll just apply to all the images. Yeah, that's a good point. It automatically detects the middle of your binding in books. It's really good at doing that. I haven't had it fail on that yet, so it detects that and excludes it from the image.
Scan taper.
Okay, that's more or less. The next thing it does for you, and the next step number 3, is it automatically attempts to deskew the text from your images. Now, the more careful you are at lining everything up and getting everything square, the less work that this has to do and the better your results are going to be. So as you can see in this one, this one actually is pretty square throughout the whole page. But you'll see it when it's everything by default is set to auto, so you'll see the amount of degrees that it's actually adjusting things. So I'm not going to worry about that too much, and I'll just let it go ahead and process all those. The next step is content selection, and this will be where it actually tries to detect where the actual text is of your book or whatever you're scanning. As you can see, it does a pretty good job at that. So I'm just going to have it do all that. Okay, and you can just sort of scroll through and make sure that it hasn't done anything too wildly out of whack. Now it tries to apply margins to the image, and usually it does a fairly decent job of, oh, it hasn't done this one properly. Sometimes you have to make a few adjustments if it, it probably detected that one down there as a speck or something like that. This does take some playing to figure out what the heck exactly is going on with some of this margin stuff I found. Anyway, I'm not gonna worry about it too much for this example, anyways.
This is scanning.
Anyway, it's missing the bottom page number on all of these, so they won't be included in the final output, but I'm not gonna worry about it. So finally, on the output tab, what it does is it tries to turn everything black and white, and that may not always be what you want in certain cases. Like, as you can see, you lose entirely all the detail on the VIC modem graphic.
No grayscale, it's just black and white.
This is it. Well, yeah. By default, that's what it does. So So for pages like this, you probably want to set it to mixed. And then you can define what zones are actually part of the picture. Well, it's doing a bad job of detecting this on its own. How the heck did you fix this? Oh, yeah. Come on, let go. Hang on. Ah.
Try to shake.
Let's try this again. Anyway, picture zones let you define what is actually a picture. This is doing all this stuff that's shaded in blue here. It thinks is part of the picture, and I can't remember how to tell it that that's not the case. Anyway, there's good tutorials about this online. This picture has been rendered pretty well in black and white. That's probably the way it appeared in the manual. So anyway, so we'll let that process these. And when you're working on a desktop machine, this is quite a bit faster. It's kind of slow because it's on a laptop and it is fairly processor heavy.
The beep when finished could be handy on a big book.
Pardon?
The beep when finished thing could be handy on a big book.
Oh yeah. Oh, if you're doing a really large project, then yeah, it could be there all night. So once that's all done, what you wind up with is a bunch of TIFF files that contain your book. So one program I forgot to mention in the PowerPoint slides was there's a program called QPDF, and it'll install a printer that, well, a print driver that more or less makes it so that you can print things to this virtual printer and it'll create a PDF file for you. So what we want to do is print. So here we have 13 pages selected. We want to print to the QPDF writer. I choose 300 DPI just because it produces significantly smaller file sizes. PDFs can be incredibly large if you're using high DPI values. So it goes through your images.
You didn't do any OCR on any of this?
I didn't OCR any of this. That's another step that you can take. It isn't part of ScanTailer, but you can OCR all the images and then include the OCR text into the PDF when you generate it. Although I don't think you can do it the cheap way by using the cute PDF printer to do it. You actually need to use a proper PDF writer.
Is it possible to apply a little bit of sharpening too, or not?
Well, I mean, depending on what you want to do, you can do anything you want with the images before you print them.
Okay.
If you want to go to the detail of touching up every little detail, then,
No, I just
you certainly can.
mass sharpening.
Yeah. So, what you wind up with is a PDF with your book in it. So this was probably a bad example on my part because that does not look terribly good, but the text looks decent. So, and when you think about it, that if I did a bigger book and spent the time to image the whole book, it really wouldn't be significantly more time than we spent doing this here. So compared to trying to do it on a flatbed scanner, you'd be here till tomorrow. So
That shading, was that from glare on the light?
could be. Yeah, ideally you want to have it so that your light is shining down without creating any glare.
If you got an anti-glare tape, plexiglass plastic piece, and it might.
You can actually angle the light. You can actually angle the light so that it doesn't create the shine off the glass.
Okay.
So, anybody have any questions, or? It's certainly an inexpensive way to do it, and that's all that I was interested in. So.
Your plate of glass, you mentioned you picked it up for what, about $11?
Yeah.
What about going to, say, a dollar store and picking up a large photo frame, which has got anti-glare glass?
You could certainly do that too if you wanted to pull it apart and.
It's usually not that difficult to do.
Yeah.
But
Depends what it is. You wouldn't want to have to pop the glass out of it or anything. It's just loose.
Most times it's a matter of taking the back out of it to put your picture in anyway, so
yeah.
Once you've done that, you can pull the glass out and away you go.
I just wanted plastic because I don't like having sheets of glass lying around in my house with kids.
Mm.
So. That was all.
If you do get glass, tape the edges.
Yeah.
Just Scotch tape is enough, but something to dull the corners so you don't cut yourself.
Yeah. Anyway, that's that. So, if anybody has any more questions, feel free to come and grab me whenever.
Cool. Cool. Hey,